My name is Declan Curran. I'm Director of Services at Offaly County Council, responsible for economic planning and economic development and planning. And as has already been noted a couple of times this morning, Offaly County Council is presently preparing a development plan for the next 6 years from 2014 to 2016. And one of the key challenges of that development plan will be how we as an organisation can support and stimulate economic development and industrial development and employment creation in County Offaly over the next number of years. We see wind energy proposals and indeed all alternative energy proposals as one of the key factors in generating that economic activity. And it's something the Council have recognised for quite a number of years back by inserting positive policies in the development plan which support these alternative energy proposals. And the inclusion of our wind strategy in the present development plan was a further significant step forward in supporting these type of proposals. As being noted, Offaly has the experience in power generation. We have the sites, we have the strategy, and we have garnered some experience in dealing with the planning applications. So that's our primary focus. We probably aren't going to see the major multinational companies coming to places like Offaly in the future. So we have to look at our inherent strengths in the county, and the Cuttaway bogs now, as they were in the past, are and can be a major source for economic activity. I should say, wearing my planning hat as well, that there is a very complicated planning framework out there that all of these projects have to negotiate. And part of our role as well is to facilitate and help people who have proposals to negotiate that planning process so that they have a successful outcome. And we are always available in the planning department to meet with anybody who has an idea. And I would say the earlier you come and talk to us, the better, and it will head off any problems or difficulties that might arise further down the road with the project.
Thank you very much, Declan. I'd like to introduce Tom Parlin, Director General of the Construction Industry Federation.
Thanks very much, Chair. And seeing as some people earlier were keen to show their local credentials, I'm an Offaly man down from Coolderry. We competed in the All-Ireland Club Hurling Final last year, and delighted that our near neighbours Kilcormac competed this year. So there's still lots of potential in Offaly, and I know the challenge is trying to keep a panel together in a local club, and I know the challenges that the hurling and football county management have currently trying to keep jobs. So I think in terms of the potential here, it is absolutely massive for the county and for the wider area. In the terms of the job I have now, the construction industry was worth, and we're talking about billions, and I think the SIAC speaker gave a very good perspective on how you put it down into tons and so on. But in terms of the scale of the industry, the construction industry was worth 36 billion in the Irish economy back in 2006 only, which crazily was almost a quarter of the total economy, and hence we got into some of the difficulties, the dependence on construction, and construction being probably involved in a lot of, a number of speculative projects in terms of residential and so on. But that capacity is there. During those years we built our motorway network from Dublin to all corners of the country. We built the Shannon Tunnel. Croke Park was mentioned earlier, the Aviva Stadium, the National Conference Centre, and a massive investment in terms of the big pharmas here, some of the most sophisticated installations in the world, and currently in Intel at the moment, making the most modern microchips, ahead of anything in the world, and even building stuff that are not even sure what they're building. Irish construction firms are doing. So we have the capacity. We're only worth about 8 billion at the moment, and making a very minor contribution to the exchequer. About 1 in every 2 people that are signing on at the moment are former construction workers or have been involved in the construction sector. So those skills are there, and I repeatedly meet with Secretary Generals and politicians in terms of making our case. Met with the Secretary General of Jobs, Enterprise and Trade on Monday morning, meeting Rory Quinn on Thursday morning, the Secretary General of Taoiseach's Department, making the point that in terms of the jobs programme that the government about 100,000 jobs over the next 3 years, construction have the potential to create those instantly if there is work for us. And work obviously needs money. I know that there's a lot of complications about this, about funding and so on, but the industry is ready to go. And what we regard when we're talking to government, and it's accepted by them, $1 billion invested in national infrastructure is 10,000 jobs. So I think that puts it in perspective here. And this is non-government money, And certainly the industry is ready and willing, I think, with the skills and the expertise to respond, and will support the project in every way in terms of getting it off the ground.
Thanks, Tom. Next contributor is Joe Bergen, who's chairperson of Climate Change and Wind Energy at the Irish Farmers Association.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is Ger Bergen, actually, and since we're doing local, where we're from kind of stuff, I'm from across the border in County Laois. I've gotten into Offaly for today, and glad to be here, and thanks very much for the invite. I'm chair of the Climate Change and Renewables project team within the association. I'm a vice president of the association, and about 3.5 years ago we set up the wind energy project team within the association, and at that stage, might as well be straight up, vast majority of our time was spent dealing with problems and the consequences of poorly drawn up option and lease agreements, particularly in the domestic industry. That's not to say that there are not well-run operations in the domestic market, all the rest that farmers are very happy with and earning an income from, but you don't hear about those. You only hear about the problems in our association, and you have to deal with them. As a consequence of that, we drew up a guidance document at that time, about 3 years ago now, for farmers who were approached by wind developers. At that time, we didn't envisage such large-scale projects coming to the Midlands, but the main issues that we had were in terms of the income for farmers out of it, the legal encumbrances on their properties, the problems that were out there in the wind sector in terms of just not all their own fault, the planning and grid connection processes being so slow and cumbersome and difficult, but there was a lot of speculation and flipping, and a lot of farmers left with encumbrances on their land and no income. And that's not something we could tolerate within the association on a long-term basis. When the projects that are proposed for the Midlands, I suppose, came to our attention, we had a large number of landowner meetings at that stage, with about 1,000 landowners at meetings through the Midlands summer of last year. We got a clear mandate from there to go and try and negotiate the best possible terms and conditions for our landowners in advance of this project. At that stage, 200 landowners had signed at that stage, so there was an issue there as well. And that's what we did. Mainstream, we had a very successful negotiating process with Mainstream. Took a small bit of persuasion maybe to start the process, but once we got over that, and established the bona fides where we were all coming from, trying to do the right thing by the people we represent, that's where we work from. And we in IFA are very happy with the agreement we signed with Mainstream. And I suppose in terms of what we were looking for out of four or five basic points, Chairman. First of all, the legal encumbrances on property. People talk about the money, but there's a huge legal encumbrance on property for farmers during the planning process and EISs and all the rest, if a project is to get up and running. And shortening the time frame, we have the shortest time frame for farmers in this agreement. We have payments for and all the rest and indemnifications. Obviously, the key issue is the income for farmers for us, from our perspective. And we're very happy that we have the market-leading rate got now at this stage. We have a target within the association of getting to 5% for farmers of rental income, and that's the first time ever that figure has gotten into an agreement. And I look forward to the day a better agreement is signed. We see it as a floor, nothing else, and a way to move on. We've also the concept of minimum payments, so farmers can go to the bank on what they're getting, payments on planning, payments for the options. Another critical issue, briefly, Chairman, and I think it is the whole, community benefit. We were very strong on. I know IWEA, the Wind Energy Association, have a proposal there, I think around 1,000 a megawatt. We believe that's not sufficient, and in the agreement with Mainstream, we have a substantially higher figure. And I think as part of any public acceptance across all rural communities, that community benefit has to be very clear. There's a temporary and permanent disturbance to communities by these processes, but if there's a win-win situations can be created, if there's a proper robust planning process, clear community benefit back to the farmers and back to people in the parishes and all that, and there's clear models for doing that, so that's something we need to see. And then, I suppose, the indemnification of farm incomes and losses on farming. That was a critical part of our negotiations. I think it's a new standard in the industry as well in terms of forestry, farm schemes, legal costs. We come from the perspective, and I come from the perspective, Chairman, that there should be no dipping of farmers dipping their hand in their pocket to fund in any way these projects. We have wind rights over our head. They're ours to trade if farmers so wish, and not if they don't as well. In terms of just going forward from here, I think that the economic benefits and all that, provided a proper planning process is in place, provided there's proper guidelines and they're adhered to, there's clearly an economic benefit for rural Ireland, no question of that. We're a pro-development organisation, and all we want to see is the best possible share for farmers. And I think the concept of a separate and independent grid at some time in the future offers an opportunity, I think, for more renewables from the agricultural sector to be part of either the domestic or export grid in the context of a single market for energy and everything across Europe. And clearly that's an area we're strategically focusing on for all renewables, and it's an area that we will be developing a policy in. So I'll leave it at that, Chairman. Thanks very much for your time and attention.
Thank you very much, Chair. But now to introduce Dominic Doheney, who is an executive member of Tullamore and District Chamber.
Thanks, Chairman. I think my time slot has been eroded now after that.
So we look after you.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Dominic Doheney, and I'm here representing the Tullamore Chamber of Commerce and also the Midland Gateway Chamber of Commerce, which represents the gateway towns of Athlone, Mullingar and Tullamore. We represent and promote the area's business economy, and we encourage business and industrial investment in the Midland area. We also act as a lobby group in influencing local, regional and national government policy. The proposed wind farm projects have the ability to pump new life back into the Midland economy. Wind power is rebuilding communities all over the world, creating much needed jobs. We see huge opportunities for our children who would have traditionally looked at construction for their future, for example in the trades and the various professions. If we prepare in time, and if our educators look at the opportunities, especially in the areas of career guidance, in secondary schools, to third level institutions, to government training agencies, they should be developing courses now specific for the industry in areas such as technicians, mechanics, electronics, hydraulics, and many more. Ultimately, the decision is ours. We can ignore the considerable benefits from wind power, or we can move forward and invest in this new and clean, cutting energy future, bringing benefits to the communities across the Midlands. Remember, opportunity comes to those who prepare themselves, and we're ready for it when it appears. Opportunities come to pass and not to pause. Thank you.
Thank you, Dominic.